One of the questions that I guess get most frequently from small business owners and operators as it relates to their people, to their talent is, what is it that our employees want? What is it that is most important to employees? And probably there's been a lot of research done over the years on that question. And I think maybe the best book that addresses that question is a book called First Break All the Rules that was written back in 1999 by Marcus Buckingham and Curtis Kaufman. At the time, Buckingham was an executive with the Gallup organization, and they, of course, have done a lot of research on this question about employees and what's important to them. And so they did one of the largest surveys ever of employees across all size companies, across all industries, across the world. And out of their research came this book, First Break All the Rules. And they found there were 12 factors, 12 questions that mattered most to employees. And so I'd like to walk you through these questions. The book was on the bestseller list for over 2 years. It was named one of the top 25 business books of all time, First Break All the Rules. So I'll walk you through these 12 questions and add a little content to each one for you to think about. So there are two primary findings in the book. One is, again, these 12 factors that matter most to employees. Second is what they found is there's a hierarchy, there is an order to these 12 questions, 1 through 12. And so they're in order of importance. So as I go through these, keep that in mind that the very first question is the most important all the way through number 12. So the first question and the most important question from employees is, do I know what's expected of me at work? Do I know what's expected of me at work? Translated, is there a way of measuring my success? Is there clarity around what's expected of me? How high is the bar set in terms of my performance? Well, if you think about that, how do companies address that? Typically, it starts with a job description. And that's something I recommend to all my clients. Every time they've identified a hiring need, my question will be, is there a job description? Is there a piece of paper that describes your expectations for this role and what's expected in terms of activity? A job description. My experience with job description is that they tend to be activity heavy and results light. And it should be the other way around. The job description should be very specific as to the results that you expect, not from this person, but from this position. So if it's a senior sales executive and you would say, okay, I expect $1 million in annual sales at 20% gross margin and 90% client retention. Those are just examples of results for a particular position. So we start with a job description, and that job description needs to be very specific as to the results that we expect for that position. So that's the first question. Do I know what's expected of me at work? Second question, do I have the equipment and the materials that I need to do the work right? Do I have the right stuff to be successful? I know when I first saw this question, I thought about jobs that some that I had, all the equipment, the resources, the tools I needed to be successful. Those were great jobs. I could also think of other jobs that I felt like maybe I was shortchanged. I didn't have the equipment, the technology, the people that I needed to be successful. And those were stressful positions, unhappy at times because I just felt like maybe I had an arm tied behind my back. I couldn't quite do what I wanted to do to be successful. Frustrating, I remember. Third question at work, do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day? Translated, am I playing to my strengths? Right? I know what I do well. I know what maybe I don't do as well, strengths, weaknesses. Am I playing to my strengths? Buckingham suggests in another book that we should be spending at least 20% of our time doing what we do best. And so is that true? Or in terms of our employees, are we allowing them to play to their strengths? Are they spending at least 20% of their work time doing what they do best? The fourth question, in the last 7 days, and underline that number 7 because the survey was very specific to that number. In the last 7 days, have I received praise or recognition? That's what employees are telling us, that I expect to hear something from my manager, my supervisor, at least every 7 days in the form of praise or recognition. And not just for the sake of praise or recognition, but it should be authentic. It should be real, that I'm telling an employee, hey, nice job on this project or on this account or with this client. I am, as their manager, I'm looking for opportunities. I'm seeking opportunities to provide praise or recognition. I've had some business owners say, what, I should write on the calendar 2 o'clock Monday afternoon, praise Tim for his work. And my response to that is, sure, if that's what it takes to make sure that you're providing regular praise or recognition to your employees. Write it on the calendar if need be. The other thing to keep in mind is that every employee is different in terms of the type of praise or recognition that's going to have the greatest effect. Think about the employee and say, okay, is it maybe it's a thank you note. It's a take them out to lunch. It's a, at the next staff meeting, praise this employee, publicly for their work. Think about what's going to have the greatest impact, what type of praise or recognition for each employee. Give thought to that. Number 5, does my supervisor or someone at work care about me as a person? Not as an employee, not as a cog in the wheel, so to speak, but as a human being. Do they care about me as a person? I had one of my Vistage members years ago share this story that he was the president of a local insurance company, and he had about a dozen direct reports. And he said that he took every one of them to lunch every month, a monthly one-to-one, took them to lunch. He had one rule for that lunch meeting, and that one rule was, we'll talk about anything you want other than business. So we talk about business all the time, he said. At least once a month, I want to know how they were doing as people, as fathers, as husbands. And he'd talk about their families, talk about their vacations, talk about their golf game, whatever is most important to them. But we're not talking business, because he wanted to demonstrate that he cared about them as people. Number 6, is there someone at work who encourages my development, my desire to improve, to get better, to elevate my game? Is there someone who cares about that? Hopefully it's the immediate supervisor. So it suggests that, again, we need to be meeting with our employees on a regular basis, asking the questions, what do you need help on? What are you working on? How can I be more supportive? It's looking for opportunities for training, for development. Last number that I saw just recently, a study that was done, showed for every dollar that we spend developing an employee, we can expect a $7 return, 7-to-1 return on investment for training and development, particularly around leadership, training and development. How much are you spending on your people? Is there someone at work who encourages my development? When we come back, the next video, we'll walk you through the next 6 questions that are most important to your employees.